Hi, this is a video about using the Tkinter package to create GUIs or graphical user interfaces in Python. So first thing we need to do is import what we need out of this Tkinter module. So we've seen import statements where we import one thing, import Tkinter as TK. That would be one thing we could do. But there's going to be a lot out of this module that we want. We want buttons, we want labels. So we're just going to import everything. So from Tkinter module, I'm going to import star. So let's do that first in idle. I'm going to do from Tkinter import star, and let's create our first GUI. I'm going to create a window by saying the variable window, you can call the variable anything you want, is equal to, and then TK with parentheses, kind of like we're calling a function, but what this function's going to do is it's going to create a top level widget that'll represent the main window. So I was reading that from the pop-up when I go ahead and do this. And when I create that, then I get this little pop-up that is my window, and it's ready for me to put labels or buttons inside of it. And I'm going to put a label inside of it. And the first thing that the label command wants, this is object-oriented programming, so we're creating an instance of a label. The first thing it wants to know is what window do we want to display this in, and so I'm going to type in that window variable that I just created. There's a few other optional arguments. One of them is the text that we want to display. I'm going to display hello world. And then there's one more line I need, and that's pack. And then I'll go ahead and see that appear in my GUI. Now I'm using idle. This will work just fine for idle, but if you're using PyCharm, it may quickly display this and then the program's done, so it exits and removes that GUI. So you might need one more line. If you're in PyCharm, go ahead and add this line, main loop, and then it'll stay up on the screen and it won't immediately exit. Okay, there's a few other widgets we can use besides the label. We could have used the button, and if someone clicks on it, there's an associated function that'll run. Check buttons, entry, you can go ahead and click in there and type multiple words inside of that box. Widget is short for a window gadget, and they can be placed inside of the window. So let's go ahead and try to set up another label inside of this. So we've already used the variable label, so I'm going to do label 2. Label 2 is equal to, we want it in that same window. Let's do some different text. Maybe have a good day. And I'm going to try making the font a little bit larger on this one. The default font is fairly small, and I'm having trouble reading it. So I'm going to put in an optional argument for the font and make it Helvetica font and size 40. Let's try that. And now we have that label 2 variable that we created. We can go ahead and pack that in. And now we haven't lost our hello world, it's still there, and right below it, it's going to put the have a good day. Let me try one more label, label 3, and I'm going to just show that you can configure the background color and the font color. So do hi. I kind of like having a pretty large font size, so I'm going to stick with, maybe I'll even go larger for 50 this time. And then if you want to change the foreground color or the text color, FG for foreground, change that to red, and the background color BG, we can change that to blue. Spell it right. And oh, let's see, one syntax error. What did I do wrong? Oh, too many parentheses at the end. And now I've got my label 3. I can go ahead and pack that in. And now I have hi. I've noticed on my Mac the BG and the FG don't necessarily work as well as on a Windows computer. So if you're on a Mac, kind of just skip over that and move on to the next command. So now I've got a more complicated program that I want to show you. Something that has buttons where there's actually an action performed every time you click on the button. So I've got this program here. It starts out the same with the same import line, creating a blank window, and you don't have to call this variable name window. You could call it W or X or whatever you want. I'm going to set the title, which will appear at the very top of my GUI, and this time instead of a label, I'm creating a button, and I'm going to put it inside the window with the text "Click Me." And every time someone clicks it, then the command that's going to be run is the function named clicked. So you have to have visible somewhere for this file to be able to see what to do when someone runs the function clicked. And so there's 2 lines inside of this function. One is printing the word buttons clicked, the words buttons clicked, and the other is to take this button, which is a global variable, it's defined outside of the function, and configure something about it. And we're going to configure that background color to red. And again, this may not work on a Mac. I can't remember which parts work on the Mac and which parts don't. But let me show you what happens when I run this. When I run this, my GUI is created, and it popped up outside of where I'm showing this video, and it was really small. So I clicked in the upper left corner and clicked on size, and I resized it, and that made it easier for me to drag it around by clicking on the top. That's not quite as useful to make everything disappear. So we've got this, and we want to go ahead and click on the button and see what happens. Let me put this in view. I'll go ahead and click on the button, and it does the 2 things promised. It changed the background color to red, and then it also changed or printed a line to the command line prompt. Not as exciting once you've clicked it once and it's already red. So I've got another version of this program where it has more than one color it can change to. So I'm starting with the same import line. This time I have a dictionary of all possible colors I would want my button to change to. Red and orange and yellow and green and blue. And this is a dictionary, and I can see that I've got a key that's an integer and a value that's the color, that's a string, and I've got 5 different items in my dictionary. I've also created a global variable X set to 0. Each time someone clicks on that button and we run this clicked function, I'm going to increase X by 1, and that way I'll move from red to orange to yellow to green to blue when I'm configuring the background color. And then I don't want to create an error if someone clicks more than 5 times, so I've got a little if statement saying if the variable X is greater than the length of my dictionary, and the length will return the number 5 because I've got 5 different items in my dictionary. If it's greater than 5, go ahead and set it back to 0, so we go back to red. So I'll go ahead and run this one for you and move it on the screen so you can actually see it. And let's see what happens when I go ahead and click on the button. It prints button clicked. I went ahead and printed out X too, so you can see that that global variable is changing. The first time it changes to red, and then I've got orange, yellow, green, blue, and here's where we'll be hitting that if statement. So X is actually set to 4. The next time I click on the button and try to increase X by 1, it's going to say X is 5. Well, 5 is equal to the length of our dictionary. So we want to go back to X is equal to 0, so we can start back at red. So I'll try, and it works.